First contact in the dark. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum oscillation patterns dancing across her holographic display, her coffee long forgotten and cold. Something was wrong with the numbers. The quantum entanglement network that connected Earth's 37 colonies across 12 star systems shouldn't show these kinds of irregularities. Not naturally. Maya, run the diagnostic sequence again, she commanded the lab's eye. Focus on the Proxima colony's signal degradation patterns. The colony on Proxima Centauri had reported communication difficulties 3 weeks ago. Initially, everyone assumed it was a standard equipment malfunction. Quantum communication was still relatively new technology, perfected only 15 years ago. But now 6 other colonies were reporting similar issues. Analysis complete, Maya responded. Pattern matches previous results with 99.99% correlation. The quantum interference appears deliberate, Dr. Chen. Sarah's hands trembled as she expanded the visualization. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe. First contact wasn't supposed to happen like this, through quantum static and failing communications. Get me Director Harrison. Now. The holographic display shifted, showing the tired face of the Global Communications Director. James Harrison had aged 10 years in the past week, his usually immaculate appearance showing signs of strain. Tell me you have good news, Tara. It's artificial, James. The interference patterns, they're too precise, too structured. Someone or something is deliberately targeting our quantum communication network. Harrison's face drained of color. You're certain? The mathematics don't lie. These aren't random fluctuations. Whatever's causing this understands quantum entanglement at a level that might surpass our own knowledge. They're systematically untangling our communication pairs. How long until total network failure? Sarah pulled up her projections. At the current rate of degradation, 2 months, maybe less. Proxima will go dark first, followed by the Tau City colonies. My God. Harrison ran a hand through his gray hair. The colonies aren't self-sufficient yet, without the quantum network coordinating resource distribution and trade. They'll die. Sarah finished quietly. Slowly, but they'll die. The quantum network wasn't just for communications. It coordinated everything from resource shipments to atmospheric processors. Humanity had built its interstellar civilization on instantaneous quantum communication. Without it, the colonies would be thrown back to radio signals that took years to reach their destinations. We need options, Sarah. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Colonial Defense Council. I want you there. Before Sarah could respond, Maya interrupted. Dr. Chen, detecting new interference pattern. Signal origin. Edge of the Oort cloud. The holographic display exploded with new data. Sarah's eyes widened as she processed what she was seeing. James, they're not just interfering anymore. They're sending us something. The quantum noise resolved itself into clear, precise patterns. Mathematical sequences, simple at first, then increasingly complex. A language of pure mathematics being transmitted directly into humanity's quantum network. They want to talk, Sarah whispered. Can you respond? Sarah's fingers flew across her haptic interface. Yes, but, James, these equations they're sending, they're not just communication. They're a demonstration of power. They're showing us exactly how they're disrupting our network, proving they can shut it down completely anytime they want. Harrison's jaw tightened. A threat? Or a test? They want to see how we respond to a technological superior force threatening our survival. The message continued streaming in, each sequence more complex than the last. Sarah began composing a response, using the same mathematical language they were employing. What are you telling them? Harrison asked. I'm showing them our own quantum mathematics, proving we understand what they're doing, that we see the elegance in their methods. Sarah paused, then added, and I'm including our early research into quantum entanglement, showing them how we discovered it independently, how we built this network through our own ingenuity. Is that wise? Showing them our technology. They already understand our technology better than we do, but they need to understand something else about humanity. Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. We didn't copy this technology from anyone. We didn't find it in ruins or steal it. We developed it ourselves, built our civilization with it. And if they take it away, she looked directly at Harrison, we'll find another way. The quantum signal surged, almost as if in response to her declaration. New patterns emerge, more complex than before. Sarah's translation algorithms began breaking them down. They're responding, she said. They're surprised. I don't think they expected us to understand their mathematical language so quickly. And she frowned at the new data. They're calling themselves the Quantum Hunters. They say they've been watching us since we first achieved quantum communication. How many colonies have they destroyed? Harrison asked grimly. None, according to this. They say we're the first species they've encountered who achieved quantum communication independently. Usually, they find civilizations using stolen or scavenged technology. They test them, see if they truly understand what they're using. And if they fail the test. Sarah's expression hardened as she decoded the next sequence. They take it away, force them back to conventional communication methods. They see themselves as guardians of quantum space, preventing unworthy species from accessing it. Harrison stood straighter, his exhaustion forgotten. Tell them humanity doesn't respond well to threats. We built this network. We'll defend it. Sarah began composing the response, but new data was already streaming in. Her blood ran cold as she translated it. James, they say the test has already begun. We have 30 days to prove we deserve to keep our network. She looked up at him. They say most species fail within the first week. The quantum signals pulsed once more, then fell silent, leaving only the ever-present interference patterns as evidence of their existence. Get me everything you need, Harrison said. Full access to all research facilities, unlimited resources. You have 30 days to save humanity's colonies. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. The quantum hunters thought they were testing humanity's right to use quantum technology. They didn't realize they were about to learn something far more important about the human species. Humanity didn't just survive tests. They turned them into opportunities. The quantum hunters. In the depths of their quantum vessel, first observer Angstil watched the human signals with growing unease. These creatures weren't behaving like any species they tested before. Instead of panic or desperate pleas, the humans were responding with precise mathematical proofs, elegant quantum theories, and most disturbing of all, questions. They seek to understand us, Angstil communicated to the Council of Observers. No species has ever attempted this during a test. The quantum ship hung at the edge of the solar system, its presence masked by technologies perfected over millions of years. The vessel itself existed partially in quantum space, allowing the hunters to monitor and manipulate quantum communications across vast distances. Their response time is unprecedented, second observer Kexlar noted. They identified our interference patterns within weeks. Previous species took months, even years. Angstil studied the latest data stream from Earth. Dr. Sarah Chen and her team had been working continuously, probing the hunters' interference patterns, testing theories, sending increasingly complex mathematical challenges back through the degrading quantum network. They're not just defending, Angstil realized. They're learning, adapting. Every probe we send reveals more of our methods. And there, the first observer paused, searching for the right concept. They're reverse engineering our technology through pure mathematics. The council stirred uneasily. This wasn't part of the standard test protocol. Species were supposed to either fail and abandon quantum communication or prove their worth by defending their existing networks. None had ever tried to understand the hunters themselves. Status of their colonial network. Third observer Angshren inquired. Degrading according to schedule, Angstil reported. Proxima colony shows 60% signal loss. Tau Ceti follows at 45%. Yet, they hesitated. Speak, first observer. The humans are allowing certain channels to degrade while fortifying others. They're prioritizing, adapting their network topology in real time. It's as if Engstil's quantum consciousness pulsed with concern. It's as if they're using our interference as a teaching tool, learning how quantum communication can be manipulated at its most fundamental level. In the quantum labs on Earth, Sarah Chen had indeed made a breakthrough. She stood before the Colonial Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing the intricate patterns of the Hunter's interference. They're not just disrupting our network, she explained. They're showing us how quantum space itself can be manipulated. Every attack is also a lesson, if we're willing to learn from it. Can you stop them? Harrison asked. No, Sarah smiled. But I can do something better. I can understand them. She brought up a new display, showing the complex mathematical language the Hunters use to communicate. They're not just advanced aliens using quantum technology. They're quantum beings themselves. Their entire civilization exists partially in quantum space. That's why they're so protective of it. It's literally their home. How does this help us? Because they've never encountered a species like us before. Sarah highlighted sections of their communications. Look at their language, their concepts. They think in quantum states and probabilities and uncertainties. But humans, we think linearly, causally. We see quantum mechanics as a tool, not a fundamental state of being. And that's an advantage. It means we can think in ways they can't. They expect us to either fail completely or learn to fight them in quantum space. But we have another option. She pulled up her latest project. We can build something new, something they won't expect because they can't even conceive of it. Meanwhile, in quantum space, the Hunters were detecting anomalies they couldn't explain. Human quantum signals were degrading exactly as planned, yet information was still flowing between colonies. Resource coordination continued. Trade networks adapted. Impossible, Kexler declared. Their quantum coherence is failing. They cannot maintain colonial communication. Unless, Engstil suggested, they're not using quantum communication at all. The Council fell silent, processing this concept. In all their history of testing species, none had ever attempted to function without quantum technology once they'd acquired it. The very idea seemed primitive, a step backward into darkness. Scan for alternative communication methods, Engstil ordered. But the humans had learned more than expected from studying the Hunters' interference patterns. They understood now how quantum beings perceive reality, and more importantly, what they might miss. Sarah Chen stood in her lab, watching data flow through her new creation. It wasn't quantum entanglement. It wasn't even particularly advanced technology by human standards. But it was something the quantum Hunters had never encountered. A hybrid system that used quantum uncertainty itself as a carrier wave for classical signals. They're looking for quantum communications, she told Harrison, or primitive radio waves. But we're not using either. We're hiding our signals in the quantum noise they themselves are generating. Like hiding a whisper in a thunderstorm. Exactly. Their interference actually strengthens our new network. The more they try to disrupt quantum space, the more carrier waves we have to work with. In quantum space, the Hunters were facing their first moment of uncertainty in millennia. The humans were succeeding in ways that defied their understanding of how species developed. They weren't just surviving the test. They were transforming it into something entirely new. They're innovating, Engstil communicated to the Council. Not just preserving or defending, but creating. In all our history of guarding quantum space, we've never seen this. The first observer watched another burst of human communication slip through their interference patterns, invisible to their quantum senses until it was too late. These humans weren't just worthy of using quantum space. They were teaching the quantum Hunters themselves something new about the nature of communication, innovation, and adaptation. The test had changed. But who, exactly, was being tested? Breaking the silence. Admiral Elena Torres stood on the bridge of the colony ship Hyperion, watching the quantum communication displays flicker and die one by one. Proxima colony had gone completely dark 2 days ago. Ta Ceti would follow within hours, but unlike the quantum hunters watching from the edge of the solar system, she was smiling. Status of the Shadow Network, she asked her communications officer. Lieutenant Park's fingers danced across his console, bringing up a different set of readings. Operating at 87% efficiency, Admiral. Dr. Chen's latest upgrades have increased our bandwidth by another 15%. The Shadow Network, as the colonists had begun calling it, was humanity's answer to the Hunters' challenge. Not a replacement for quantum communication, but something entirely new. A system that thrived in the interference the Hunters created. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 3 days. Her lab had become a command center, walls covered in equations and diagrams. But it wasn't the mathematics of quantum mechanics that dominated the displays now. Instead, they showed something the Hunters had never considered: the physics of chaos theory. Every interference pattern they create has a signature, she explained to Harrison and the Colonial Defense Council. It's not random. It can't be, or it wouldn't affect quantum entanglement consistently. And anything that isn't random can be predicted, Harrison finished. Better than that, it can be used. Sarah brought up a visualization of the Hunters' interference patterns. They're creating quantum noise to disrupt our communications, but noise itself is a carrier wave, if you know how to use it. We're not fighting the interference anymore. We're riding it. The council members exchanged looks. Can the Hunters detect this? They're looking for quantum signals or primitive radio waves. The Shadow Network isn't either. We're embedding our data in the very chaos they're creating. It's like, she searched for an analogy. It's like writing messages in the turbulence of a river. The water's movement carries the information, but unless you know exactly what to look for, it just looks like natural flow patterns. In quantum space, the Hunters were growing increasingly agitated. Their sensors showed the human quantum network collapsing exactly as planned, yet the colonies weren't failing. If anything, they seemed to be thriving. Impossible, Third Observer Maxren declared. The Proxima colony should be experiencing critical resource shortages without quantum coordination. Yet their atmospheric processors continue to function, Still noted. Their trade networks adapt. They're not just surviving, they're improving their efficiency. The Council of Observers convened an emergency session, something that hadn't happened in 10,000 years. These humans weren't merely passing their test. They were fundamentally challenging the Hunters' understanding of communication itself. On the colony world of Proxima, Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched her atmospheric processing plant's efficiency ratings climb for the 3rd straight day. The Shadow Network didn't have the raw speed of quantum communication, but it had something else: resilience. It's counterintuitive, she explained to her team. The more they try to disrupt us, the stronger our signal becomes. Every new interference pattern they introduce gives us more bandwidth to work with. In her lab on Earth, Sarah was watching the Hunters' response with growing excitement. Their interference patterns were changing, becoming more complex as they searched desperately for humanity's new communication method. They still don't understand, she told Harrison. They're quantum beings. They think in quantum states. The idea of using chaos itself as a communication medium is completely alien to them. It's like trying to explain color to a creature that only sees in infrared. How long can we maintain this advantage? Sarah's expression turned serious. That's the real breakthrough. The Shadow Network isn't just a temporary solution. It's a fundamentally new way of communicating. Even if they figure it out, they can't stop it without completely ceasing their interference. And if they do that, our quantum network comes back online, Harrison realized. Exactly. They've trapped themselves. Either they keep trying to interfere, giving us more bandwidth for the Shadow Network, or they stop, and we get our quantum communication back. Either way, humanity wins. The quantum hunters were facing their first real crisis of existence. Their role as guardians of quantum space had never been challenged, not in millions of years of testing other species. But these humans weren't just using quantum space. They were changing the rules of communication itself. They're not just adapting, Till communicated to the Council. They're evolving. Every challenge we present is turned into an opportunity. Every barrier becomes a bridge. The Council's response was unprecedented. Silence. For the first time in their history, the quantum hunters had no protocol to follow, no clear path forward. The test they had designed to evaluate humanity's worth had instead revealed something about themselves. They had become static, predictable, bound by their own rules and expectations. As the 20th day of the test dawned, Sarah Chen made one final adjustment to the shadow network. It wasn't just carrying colony coordination data now, it was transmitting an invitation to the hunters themselves. "We're ready for real communication," she told Harrison. "Not tests, not threats, but actual dialogue. We've proven we can survive without quantum technology if we need to. Now let's prove we can do something even more important." "What's that?" Sarah smiled as she sent the message into the quantum noise. "We can teach them as much as they can teach us. The universe is too big for any species to be guardians alone." The message rode the chaos into quantum space, a paradox that would change both civilizations forever. Humanity had done more than break the silence. They had transformed it into a new form of symphony. The network. First observer Till had lived for over 10,000 years, experiencing reality through the elegant mathematics of quantum space. But now, for the first time, they felt something new: doubt. The human's shadow network wasn't just a technological achievement. It was a philosophical challenge to everything the hunters believed about communication, evolution, and progress. They request direct dialogue, Till announced to the Council. Not through tests or mathematical proofs, but genuine exchange of ideas. The quantum vessel hummed with uncertainty. In all their history, the hunters had never engaged in direct dialogue with a species under testing. It wasn't part of the protocol. But then, nothing about humanity had followed protocol. On Earth, Sarah Chen and her team had transformed their quantum lab into something unprecedented, a hybrid communication center that could speak both classical and quantum languages simultaneously. The shadow network hummed alongside partially restored quantum channels, creating a symphony of information that even Sarah found beautiful. "They're responding," she told Harrison, watching new patterns emerge in the data streams. "But it's different from their previous communications, less structured, more curious." The hunter's message materialized in both quantum and classical formats, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by the humans. They were adapting, learning to speak in ways humans could better understand. "You have created something new," the message read, "something that should not be possible. We request understanding." Sarah's response was immediate. "Then let's learn from each other. Your mastery of quantum space is unmatched. Our ability to adapt and innovate in crisis has proven remarkable. Imagine what we could achieve together." In quantum space, the Council of Observers erupted in debate. Direct collaboration with a tested species was unprecedented. Yet these humans had proven themselves different from any species encountered before. They don't just use technology, Still argued. They transform it. While we sought to test their worth to use quantum space, they discovered new fundamental principles of communication itself. At the Proxima colony, Dr. Tanaka's atmospheric processors were now running at 120% efficiency, using principles learned from studying the hunter's interference patterns. The shadow network had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming a hybrid system that combined the best aspects of quantum and classical physics. "We're not going back to pure quantum communication," Sarah explained to both Harrison and the hunters. "The shadow network isn't just a backup system. It's an evolutionary step forward. It's taught us that there are more ways to connect across space than we ever imagined." The hunters' response came with a subtle shift in their interference patterns. They weren't trying to disrupt communications anymore. They were studying the shadow network, learning from it just as humanity had learned from them. "In all our existence," they transmitted, We have sought to prevent unworthy species from accessing quantum space. We never considered that worthiness might manifest in ways we couldn't predict. Sarah worked through the night with her team, establishing new protocols for human-hunter communication. The shadow network evolved again, incorporating quantum principles in ways that even the hunters found innovative. It wasn't just carrying messages now. It was becoming a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of perceiving reality. Your species thinks differently. Till communicated directly to Sarah. You see limitations as challenges, barriers as opportunities. When we blocked quantum communication, you didn't just find another way to talk. You invented a new language entirely. That's what humans do, Sarah responded. We adapt, we innovate, but most importantly, we learn. Your interference patterns taught us more about quantum mechanics than we could have learned in a century of peaceful research. The Quantum Hunter's vessel moved closer to Earth for the first time, its partially quantum nature creating stunning auroras visible from the surface. It was a gesture of trust, of recognition, and perhaps most importantly, of change. Harrison watched the lights dance across the sky from his office. They're not just acknowledging us, are they? They're acknowledging that they need to change too. Sarah nodded, watching quantum and shadow data flow together in beautiful harmony. They've been guardians for millions of years, never really evolving because they never needed to. We showed them that there's always room for growth, always new ways to look at old problems. The network, as it came to be called, wasn't just a communication system anymore. It was a living symbol of what could happen when different species, different ways of thinking, came together to create something new. Quantum signals danced with shadow data, carrying not just information but ideas, culture, and possibilities across the stars. In quantum space, the Council of Observers made an unprecedented decision. The test was not just over. It was being permanently retired. Humanity had proven that worthiness couldn't be measured by a single standard, that true advancement came not from passing tests, but from transforming challenges into opportunities for growth. We have been guardians. Till communicated to all human colonies simultaneously. Perhaps now it is time to become partners instead. The message rode both quantum and shadow carriers, a harmony of technologies that represented the future neither species could have imagined alone. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging that something profound had changed in the fabric of space itself. Echo of victory. 5 years after first contact with the Quantum Hunters, the Sol system had become a hub of interstellar innovation. The massive quantum vessel of the Hunters now orbited permanently between Earth and Mars, its ethereal form a constant reminder of how much had changed. Sarah Chen stood in the new Quantum Shadow Research Center, watching apprentice hunters interact with human scientists. The sight still amazed her. Quantum beings learning to think linearly while humans learn to perceive quantum states. Two fundamentally different ways of understanding reality, coming together to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Did you ever imagine this outcome when they first started interfering with our networks? Harrison asked, joining her at the observation window. Not even close, Sarah admitted. I was just trying to save our colonies. Instead, we ended up reshaping interstellar communication itself. The network, as it had come to be known, now extended far beyond Earth's colonies. Other species, previously restricted from quantum communication by the Hunters' tests, were learning to use the hybrid system. It was more robust than pure quantum communication, more flexible than classical signals, and represented a fundamental shift in how civilizations connected across space. In quantum space, first observer Till was experiencing something unprecedented: evolution. The Hunters, static for millions of years, were changing, learning to see beyond quantum states, to understand the value of chaos and adaptation. Young hunters especially were eager to learn from humans, fascinated by their ability to transform limitations into advantages. We thought we were preserving order, Till communicated to the Council. Instead, we were stagnating. These humans showed us that true guardianship means fostering growth, not just maintaining stability. The colonies had flourished beyond anyone's expectations. The shadow network's principles had led to breakthroughs in atmospheric processing, energy distribution, and even terraforming. Proxima, once a barely habitable outpost, was becoming a garden world thanks to technologies that merged quantum precision with human adaptability. Dr. Tanaka, now Director of Colonial Development, had implemented these innovations across all human settlements. "We're not just surviving anymore," she reported to the Colonial Council. "We're teaching other species how to thrive in environments we once thought impossible to inhabit." But perhaps the most profound change was philosophical. The hunters' rigid hierarchy had given way to a more dynamic structure, influenced by human organizational principles. The Council of Observers had become the Council of Innovation, focused on fostering new ideas rather than just preserving old ones. "The test was our limitation," Till explained to Sarah during one of their regular discussions. "We were so focused on determining who deserved to use quantum space that we forgot to ask what else might be possible." Sarah nodded, watching a young hunter attempt to understand human music, another concept that had fascinated them. Sometimes the best way to protect something is to let it grow, to let it change. The network continued to evolve, incorporating new principles discovered through human-hunter collaboration. It wasn't just a communication system anymore. It had become a living symbol of what different species could achieve together. Quantum signals and shadow data flowed together seamlessly, carrying not just information but culture, art, and ideas across the stars. Other species, watching this transformation, began to approach Earth with proposals for collaboration. The hunters, once feared as stern guardians, were now seen as partners in an expanding community of civilizations. Their quantum vessel had become a university of sorts, where species from across the galaxy came to learn both quantum and shadow technologies. "We're not just teaching them to communicate," Harrison observed. "We're teaching them to innovate, to see barriers as opportunities." Sarah watched a group of alien scientists working with the shadow network, each adding their own unique perspective to its evolution. "That's humanity's real contribution," she said. "Not the technology itself, but the idea that there's always another way, always room for growth." The stars seemed closer now, more accessible, not just through quantum space or shadow signals, but through the understanding that no species had all the answers, and that was exactly as it should be. The universe was too vast, too complex for any one way of thinking to be sufficient. In the quantum labs where it all began, a new generation of human scientists worked alongside hunter apprentices, each learning from the other. The original quantum network that the hunters had tried to disable was still there, but it had become just one part of a much larger, more robust system of connection. "Victory," Till mused to Sarah, their quantum form shimmering with new patterns learned from human emotion, "is not what we thought it was. It's not about proving superiority or maintaining control." "No," Sarah agreed, watching quantum and shadow signals dance together across her displays. "It's about growing, adapting, and most importantly, learning to see through each other's eyes." The echo of their victory resonated across space, carried by the very network they had created together. It wasn't the story of one species triumphing over another, but of two fundamentally different ways of thinking coming together to create something new. The void between stars had become a bridge, and across that bridge flowed endless possibilities for the future. Humanity had not just survived their test, they had transformed it into an opportunity for universal growth. And in doing so, they had proven that the greatest achievements don't come from passing tests, but from daring to imagine something better.